Welcome back. This is our ninth in a series of lectures on technology strategy. Tonight we'll be wrapping it up with a discussion of two important concepts. The first is the concept of real options, derived from financial options logic. Real options turn out to be a useful tool in examining questions concerning timing. The timing of a strategic decision, or in the case that we're looking at today, the situation of technology evolution, and I believe you'll find it a useful tool and concept to master. We'll then turn to an overview of the course as a whole and go over some of the issues about how to put it all together, how to use this as a cohesive unit, cohesive whole in looking at technology and coming up with some conclusions about how it works, what's important, and so forth. And, as I said, basically trying to figure out how to make a bet on a technology for your careers and for guiding your organization. But I'm going to open by talking about a familiar company, Apple. Oop, went too many slides. 1984, Apple computer was out. This is the Apple One. Was making a significant market penetration in 1984. This was a revolutionary product and included a few nice features that are familiar today, including the mouse and a very nice graphical interface. It also had some interesting design features in as much as its keyboard looked just like a typewriter keyboard. It did not include the 10-key numeric pad, nor did it include command keys. This was a strategic decision on Steve Jobs' part because his belief was that one should target young people, specifically in the educational market, K through 12, in the belief that if the students learned to love Apple early on, that they would be lifetime learners and users. And so it was his long-term plan to take over the technology markets with his computers and to gain penetration through lock-in by teaching users and getting users committed to using the Apple operating system. This turned out to be a critical strategic decision because what it meant was that the tool was not as well adapted for use by businesses as it might otherwise have been. So IBM designed the familiar keyboard, the one still in use today, and along with, for open standards and a variety of other reasons, was able to take over the business market. At the time, Apple did very well. It got to about 10% market share in the computer market, introduced a whole line of computers, including the original Apple 123, Lisa, and a few other ones. But by the early 1990s, the company had started to run out of luck. Steve Jobs was forced out. They replaced him with a fellow who had been running PepsiCo, and they went ahead and actually continued to struggle for quite a few years until 1996 with a couple of different issues. One was the new products that were introduced were not successful. The designs perhaps were not as much fun as they might be. But the second question was they did not have an operating system that was useful, and they could not get a new one developed and out into the marketplace. They solved that problem in 1996 by buying Next Company, which Steve Jobs had founded. They acquired its operating system. The computer itself went away, but the operating system became the foundation of Apple and the Macintosh line as we know it today. And Jobs took control of Apple with a series of product introductions that have remade the world as we know it. So when Jobs came back in In 1997, they introduced one of the most famous advertising campaigns of all time, the Think Different campaign. It was positioning Apple as the outcast, as the revolutionary, and led the marketplace to expect new and different things from Apple. The Mac was one of the first products to be introduced. That came out in 1999. It was an integrated one-piece unit, keyboard and keyboard attached to it, but the microcomputer and the screen were integrated. It came in colors. Almost every product on the market at the time was beige. I think I seem to remember a few black ones, but it was either beige or black, so color was revolutionary. And this was followed up by the original Mac laptops and a complete line of products in the Macintosh, which were a terrific success. On that foundation, they focused on the development of two different marketplaces. The first one being familiar, the iPod. With iTunes and the development of the iPod in the period 2003 to 2006, the product was introduced in 2006. We have a revolutionary new product that, as you know, took over and remade the entire music marketplace as we know it today by levering a platform strategy consisting of a product and the iTunes Store. They followed up that with the iPhone in 2007. This product had been under development from 2004 through 2006. They worked quite extensively on development. They waited for its introduction until they could seize a significant part of market share. That happened in 2007. And they followed that up with the next new revolutionary product, the iPad. The iPad has only been around since 2010, April 3rd, 2010 to be precise. But in that time, the tablets have remade the computer market as we know it today. All of this has greatly favored Apple. It became the most valuable company in the world last year, and at the time was the most valuable company in the world. Its product mix consisted of 58% iPhone, 17% iPad, 9% Mac, and about 15% other. Geographically, it had 38% of its market in the US, 25% in Europe and in Japan, but interestingly, only 7.5% or so in the Asian rim, a point of major concern for the obvious reason that the Asian rim is, of course, where most of the people are. We would be sanguine about Apple's fortunes, except when you notice what's happened in the smartphone market. Samsung has, in a very short period of time, become a dominant player in that sector. In 2008, 2007-2008, when the Apple iPhone was introduced, they had less than 5% market share across all markets and across all products, which at the time was a significant number of products. They went ahead to seize upon and build out on the Android platform and have now in 2012 captured 28% of the global marketplace compared to Apple's 19.4%. So the question is, at this point in time, should Apple worry? I argue that they probably should. When you go when you're competing against someone who went from 5% to 28% global market in only 3 years, you're talking about a significant competitor. The numbers are even more impressive. 395 million units shipped compared to 135 million for Apple. I apologize for the typo. iPhone, 58% of sales, strong dependence on a single market. The iOS 2 is being used only by 20% of the global marketplace. It's being competed, its major competition is Android, already has 70% of the global market share, and we are looking at the 800 million users. Samsung is already tied with Apple in the USA. And we really have two different product strategies. Apple has one product platform in each market segment, whether it be tablet, iPhone, iPod. Samsung is competing in the smartphone market. In the USA alone, has 25 different products. It's shaping itself to better suit and deliver value into each market segment it addresses. Samsung manufactures almost all of its components itself, which give it some advantage both in cost and in delivery time, whereas Apple is forced to rely on outsourced production. And interestingly, one of Samsung's largest customer, perhaps not the largest, but certainly one of the largest, happens to be Apple. So we have an interesting situation here that I propose we explore in class tomorrow. Moving on to part 2, options logic.